Hi everyone and welcome to today's energy update. Now this reading will have just a little bit of astrology in it, and the rest is going to be a tarot and channeled message guidance to give us some advice or any kind of inspiration to navigate through this very intense and kind of vengeful energy shift, the overall feeling, vibes and energies of today, because up there in the sky we have a really delicate and rather hard celestial conversation, or better said, make that two. On one hand, these last couple of days I spoke about the opposition of the Sun and Saturn, and yesterday that opposition mainly took place in the sign where the Sun was in the sign of Cancer and it opposed Saturn from Capricorn. And as I said, that was usually our emotional response to all the limitations, to all the restrictions, to all the problems. Even, Saturn in Capricorn, centralized power, external reality, the world, the collective, material life. So, regardless of where we are in the world, things are very, very violent, very heavy, very unclear, and there's a true sense of risk everywhere that we go, everywhere that we tread. So naturally, we can be that very much optimistic. The Sun in an erratic degree of Cancer is also one way or another empowered, where it doesn't matter how strong the limitations are, the power of hope, the power of belief, self-love, self-support, being there with your family, or just having an inspirational person, a friend, someone who understands you in your life is more than enough to, navigate through that hardship. But today the energy is very, very much different, because the opposition still stands in place, but it's an outer sign opposition where the Sun is already in 0 degree in Leo, and that represents the inner child. That also represents the power of the heart and the heart space. And in Cancer, we will in full control of our emotions, because the last degrees of the sign of Cancer do represent emotional mastery. So life experience, everything that we lived through, all of the past trials and tribulations greatly contributed to our emotional strength. But here in Leo, even though it is an outer sign opposition, well, this is where the heart is totally vulnerable, because the heart is innocent. It is the heart of our inner child, and it will react so very differently to the outer limitations, the inner limitations, all the chaos that is going on in the world, because the inner child will immediately feel frustration, anger, and very many times that anger is directed towards the self. And absolutely, the inner child is not rational, not logical. So what will it ask first of all? It will ask, why me? Saturn in Capricorn can represent the inner adult, so it is all of our responsibilities and duties to quiet the inner child. But what happens when the inner child is 10 times more powerful than the inner adult? Then we have a massive problem on our hands, because the inner child won't really care about the rationality of all of it. It will definitely not care that there is light at the end of the tunnel. It won't even care that this is a massive transition. This is a global world change. This is karma. This is all taking us into a much more positive future. Well, all of this means absolutely nothing to the inner child. And if chances are that you're a single person and you were looking for love, looking for some kind of compassion, empathy from others, well, that is where this energy is 10 times more vengeful, because the heart can reach a certain point, when it gets critical, and it doesn't care about what the mind says, even if your thoughts are the most positive, enlightening, self-nurturing and caring. This is the primordial core of the heart, which just beats without any permission from you, any permission from the divine, any permission from anyone else in your life. This is where the heart knows its own truth. And what is the own truth of the heart? Well, for the simple reason that you are alive, that you were gifted life, well, you deserve to enjoy that life. You deserve to be relevant, at least for yourself, and you deserve decency. May that be materially, may that be emotionally, may that be romantically, may that be just, your relationship with the self, with your relationship with the heart. So today, the inner child might really, explode from deep within as a volcano, as a very powerful volcanic reaction, and it will definitely want us to acknowledge what it has to say, and what it has to say is not really nice, but we cannot even blame the inner child. So of course, some people might mistake this for their shadows, and they might discipline the inner child, which is not the very best idea, because this is the time of confrontation. This is the time that no matter what we feel, we have to acknowledge it. If it's unhappiness, then we have to face it. Now, regarding this sky and these energies, positivity, especially when it's toxic, especially when it's forced, especially when it's an illusion, is going to be very, very vengeful, because it will be met with another aspect playing out in the sky, Mercury squaring Mars in its home sign of Aries. Now, to translate this energy into something very palpable, well, even your inner self, even your heart, today has a take no BS kind of attitude. So fantasies, dreams, hopeful texts, inspirational messages will have absolutely no effect, because you have to confront whatever is truly inside of your heart. And this can have so very many different connotations, as in people in your life might not really care about you, your friends might not be as empathic and as caring as you are, the local community that you are in might be poisonous and toxic and very, very self-centered. So basically, this is the energy of disappointment, where even tapping into spirituality might not solve anything at all. Because what might the inner child say? Well, it might say, well, the universe is very unkind for putting everyone in the same boat, even though we lived our lives differently. So today you might be really agitated, really, really anxious, really, really, rebellious, vengeful, but it is what it is. This energy requires confrontation. It requires us to process the unmasked, raw truth of whatever is inside of our hearts. And, the more vengeful you feel, the more anxious you feel, that means that your heart is that much more full of love, full of passion, full of empathy, compassion, determination. You want to be there for others. You want to make the world a better place. You would be willing to make any sacrifice just to, bring forth whatever you believe in, as in love, as in solidarity, as in we can do anything if we are united. And that is exactly why this energy is so vengeful, because Saturn is telling you, no, you cannot do it. No, the power of unity is not enough. No, faith, spirituality, magic, hopes and beliefs is not enough. And the heart is not taking any of that. So basically, don't blame yourself if you are in this very strange, melancholic or vengeful or aggressive or passive-aggressive or frustrating mood, because this is just what it is. So take it for what it is. Don't even try to change it, but at the same time, don't even try to act on it, because what is 1,000,000% certain is that if you act on it, you're gonna get into way more trouble. And if it's a depression that it's building up, there's no way out of it. So don't take any action. Don't follow your wrath. Don't follow your frustration. Try to comfort your inner child with, leisure time activities, running, physical activities, games, computer games, fantasy, escapism, fun, whatever you can think of. Just don't be an agent of vengeance and wrath in the world out there. Now the cards are basically saying the same thing. Queen of Coins reversed, Star reversed, Ace of Cups reversed, all in one pile. There is no hope, there is no magic, there is no faith, there is no salvation. But of course, none of this refers to the future, not even to tomorrow. It just refers to the present moment, this very second in time, when we are forced to confront all of these issues. And the explanation to why, well, it's very simple. We're gonna have much more of this in the autumn, and this is just a taster. This is just a preparation for us to develop inner coping skills of how to detach from the collective drama and also from our own dramas. And even when it comes from our heart, well, every single person alive today has to have some kind of inner mechanism where they just navigate through it with greater peace, with greater serenity. This doesn't mean being happy. This doesn't mean being ignorant. This just means somehow, some way trying to preserve our balance. Because at the end of the day, we do know 1,000,000,000,000,000% that after December 2020, things are truly gonna be different. So this is not a big theme that we're gonna experience for tens of years. This is just the now. This is just a massive period of transition. So on one hand, it's not even real. But before we actually can muster the inner strength to acknowledge that it's not real, well, it has to be real. At least for an hour, at least for a day. It just has to be real for us to find the inner mechanism, the inner alchemy, to push it out of our existence, of our lives, of our sphere. This is where it doesn't matter what anyone says. It doesn't even matter what the divine says. Your life is your life and you are the ultimate king of it. And if you tell yourself that it doesn't matter, you're still gonna do it. You still choose to be who you are, regardless of what life throws at you. If you say that being who you are is absolutely fine for yourself, and even if the universe would send you into the abyss, you would still not want to give up on who you are, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with who you are. That is your distinctiveness. That is what you have worked for. That is what you have created. And as the world, the universe, the cosmos, the multiverse is the source's creation and it accepts it the way it is, well, your identity or your story, who you are, is your creation and you accept it the way it is. This affirmation alone, if said with enough intent, if it is said with enough sacredness, well, it is definitely enough to stop all feelings, all anxiety, all, up and down, high and low, all disillusion, all suffering and pain. This is one of the most powerful affirmations in the world, because as above, so below. If the universe accepts its creation the way it is and it supports it and it pumps life into it, well then if you're your own creator, well then definitely you have to accept who you are, and that is the most positive thing in the universe. So the Queen of Coins reversed and the Star reversed and the Ace of Cups reversed, it's absolutely fine the way it is, because you're still proud of yourself. You are still supporting yourself. You still see the divinity in yourself. and no matter what anyone or anything, even your inner voice tells you, well, you know who you are and no one can take that away from you. And on top of this, no one can actually take away your dreams, no one can actually take away your hopes, not even the universe. And of course, there is a big hidden blessing in this, as the Seven of Swords, Six of Cups, and Justice cards represents. Well, sometimes in life, when we are feeling this way, we immediately compare ourselves to other people. Look, they're doing that much better. They're so successful. They're so this and that. But, there is a time when you should actually compare your situation to other people and see that truly everyone is the same boat right now. If there is no hope for you, well, guess what? There is no hope for anyone. And if you are surrounded by happy, very joyful people who see the optimism and everything, well, deep inside their cores, they also know the truth. It is what they choose to project and reflect. So at least right now, absolutely no one is really different than you. Not even, the shadow government or the Illuminati or whatever you might see the shadow as. Well, this is where they're actually in the same boat as everyone else. So this is totally the same for everyone. Of course, the levels and the expression of this, what triggers this state, now that differs, but really no one is more fortunate than anyone else, because this is a massive global change. So like it or not, we are truly in this together, and in a very, very literal sense, both karmically, both collectively, both spiritually, and even materially. Like, something that happens in a major country in the world is gonna happen anywhere else in a matter of weeks. And also, that Seven of Cups is very, very relevant, because the inner child wants justice. The inner child is like a primordial energy inside of you. It doesn't care about anything. If it doesn't want to be logical, well, it can reject logic, because it is the divine spark of who you are. You don't know it, but the inner child knows that it's absolutely sovereign, and it's its word or its will against anything, and it's absolutely fine like that. And the very reason the inner child is playing up is because, unknown to all of us, unknown to our rationality, unknown to our, human consciousness, well, our inner children, as in for all of us, are basically, the Sun opposing Saturn. They're seeking justice. This is a cry of help to the great karmic judge. Come and help us. We need equilibrium. We need equality. We need true justice. We need help. We need inspiration or anything. Basically, the way we should take this energy is the prayer of the inner child to its parent source. The way we might be experiencing this heavy energy is because the inner child has to express why it needs help. It has to dish out what hurts it, where it hurts, why it's unhappy, why it feels that it's suffocated and it cannot exist in this collective, in this reality, in this old paradigm, in the old order. So it's telling the universe, well, come and help us, all of us together. And when there's one inner child, there's the other. And when a lot of inner children, when a lot of divine sparks are, crying out for help at the same time, engineered by the stars, so to speak, by the position of the planet, well then, the power of the collective, but this is the hidden catch. Our consciousness, our true rational human minds don't even know that this is happening. So that means we cannot influence it in any way. There's no illusion in this. There's no rational splitting the here and for. It is just the raw power of your divine spark calling out for help, sending signals out there. And why now? Well, let's think about it astrologically. Saturn is in its home sign of Capricorn, as in the Lord of Time, the great cosmic judge, in retrograde, which means it has every intent to correct, fix, rethink, reevaluate, rejudge, appeal, etc. Sun is in its home sign of Leo. It is its most pure and divine expression, exactly the inner child, the light of Apollo. So this is the moment when both of these power players can converse with each other in a very divine manner. Take it symbolically as all of us collectively are voting as in what we wish to experience in the new paradigm and what it is that we didn't like or we couldn't accept or limited us, hurt us, etc. in the old paradigm. So this, the light of the sun, light is information. So the sun is projecting this information onto Saturn and it is taking it into consideration. So regardless of how this energy feels like, whatever is happening, in the ether, in the invisible part of our world, as in even deep within from us, where we're totally unaware, and our so-called ignorance is actually a massive bliss right now, because the human self cannot interfere with this transfer of information, transfer of light. So this is where we're actually creating a new paradigm as we speak, and we don't even know that this is what's going on, and it is absolutely wonderful. The next card is the Hermit and the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords is our critical minds, as in where we criticize, we analyze, we split the here in four, we also come up with solutions to our problems, etc. But with the Hermit, our minds are actually being illuminated. So this can very well represent that it's an actual physical, almost cellular upgrade of our neurological systems, or if our brains, our cells in the brains, something is changing, something is definitely shifting. Maybe it is the frequency which we operate on, the Schumann resonance, or something is also physically shifting. Because on one hand, it is without a shadow of a doubt, like it's almost obvious to every astrologer or mystic or seer or whatever you may call yourself, it is totally obvious that in this new paradigm, the female element is going to be a little bit more dominant than the male one. And this is a natural cycle. This isn't any battle of the sexes or whatever. This is basically the main theme, how it should be. And that is exactly why the Queen of Swords, our minds, the feminine mind, is being illuminated, because if she has to perform, well, she has to be constructive, pure, she has to serve everyone's greater good, because, the feminine mental energy has a lot of flaws to it. It is definitely bitchy, it is definitely envious, it is definitely hair splitting, extremely perfectionist or paranoid. So all of these negative expressions of the female element of air, the female intellectual expression, well, it is purifying, it is becoming what it always should be, as in supportive, as in straight thinking, as in hopeful and creative. And then moving on, we have the Two of Wands and the Seven of Wands, and this is basically like an advice. And the Two of Wands is telling us that right now we are doing this massive work as in we're almost ethereally or spiritually or unconsciously voting, co-creating the new paradigm informationally through our light, the light of the heart. And it has to be the light of the heart and not so much the light of the mind, because the mind is an executor. It is like a .exe application which just executes what the heart wants. So that's why it is the heart where everything is emanating from right now, because that is what the universe sees as pure. That is what the universe is actually interested in. And why? Well, the mind is so very adaptable by nature. It can quickly align to anything new. So the problem isn't really there. But the Seven of Wands, until this process is completed, chances are that Two of Wands, either 2 days or 2 weeks, I really hope it's not 2 months. Anyway, we have to defend ourselves, we have to hold our ground, we have to make sure that we are okay, that it's not dragging us down or high up. We have to stay in realism, we have to stay detached, we have to be observers. But this is where, most of all, now we have to observe the self, because we need to really, really take care of it. We mustn't allow it to get out of bounds. As in, the volcano should not explode right now. This is where we have to limit our assertive actions regardless of what it is. Even if it's just an angry expression, an angry word, a swear, we just have to try our hardest to be in balance as much as we can. And finally we have the conclusion, the Six of Coins reversed, the Wheel reversed, and the Eight of Cups. Now the Six of Coins reversed is very obvious. Our world is changing, even physically, even materially, even structurally. Our value systems are changing. And it is only now when the soul can truly experience that change, when the soul actually believes that the change is taking place. Because until now, we had so very many sources of escapism, and by this I'm not actually referring to escapism in its classical sense, but cling on to hopes, attach ourselves and security to something, or maybe just say, well, oh, I lived this before, it is a little bit frightening, but I'm sure everything is gonna be still the same after this ends. Now, this is where the soul actually acknowledges that no, it's not gonna be the same again, ever again. Now that it has sunk in onto a deep soul level, well, it's very natural for the soul through the unconscious mind, because that's where its true intelligence lies, in the subconscious, or the higher self maybe, but that is also part of the unconscious, because even the true grandmasters, they can't access it like 24 hours a day for the rest of their waking lives. They also need to take a break, or they have moments when they disconnect or whatever. But this is where the soul is actually acknowledging, well, I still have to complete my mission, I still have to, accept my karmic path, but how am I gonna accomplish it now, where I don't know how the world of tomorrow is going to look like? So it's not like a panic mode, it is just like a suspense, it is just like a moment of surprise when, it's trying very hard to hang in there and see whatever is coming its own unique way, and of course try to adapt itself. But the problem is the wheel of fortune is reversed. So that means that the wheel is changing, the destiny, fate, karma, whatever, it is changing, but the dial hasn't reached, that frequency where the old is just a memory. It is basically like living at the same time both in the old and the new, and that can be quite maddening to very sensitive people, empathic people, or those who have a very hyperactive mental sphere, like a ADHD, short attention span, those who have a very, very strong intellectual power and a lot of intellectual energy, well, those individuals might be in a lot of discomfort right now. And ultimately, the Eight of Chalices closes everything, and usually it's not a very positive card because it represents abandonment, escapism, shutting all doors to reality basically. But in this sense, it just represents that you will be able to exist in a higher vibe for the rest of your life after this change takes place and finishes. So reality and how you perceive reality is gonna be so very, very different. And actually, the world of tomorrow, the new paradigm, so to speak, the age of Aquarius, is going to be like a very fertile garden symbolically for dreamers and all those people who, because of who they were and what they embodied, were extremely disadvantaged in this old paradigm, in the old system. And we are not talking about 20, 30, 50 years. We are actually talking about 600 years. So that's why this is a massive change. Because this is a 600-year-old cycle when the universe gives its, how should I even express it, its emphasis, its attention, its focus onto the air element as in the intellect. But the Aquarian type of air element is very, very dreamy. It is very, very visionary. It doesn't have to be linear. It doesn't have to be perfectly logical. It is very much fun, playful. It is what you make of it. So this is a very, very good news. Just that it will still take some time for us to be able to exist in this state. So that's why we have to hold on, we have to be patient, we mustn't draw any conclusion, mustn't give in to any fear, but neither must we not give in to any false hope and exaggerated fantasy. But of course, dreaming big is definitely a must almost, because we have a really powerful sextile between Jupiter and Neptune. Both planets speak of faith, the spirit, the divine, inner truth. But, we mustn't make that inner truth surreal in such a way that even the universe would laugh at it. Even the universe would take it as a joke. Or even the divine mind would just think, how can you possibly think that this would be real? It has any chance to be real? Because, dreaming big doesn't mean dreaming chaotically. It means that we have to be aligned with whatever is sacred and important for us, and how it comes into existence has to be given and left to the divine intelligence, because that knows its own creation and how its creation functions. So, dream big with the heart and leave however should manifest to the divine. Well, thank you so much for listening. I hope this was useful. I hope this managed at least to give you a little bit of comfort and hope and ignite the light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you so much for listening, for all your support. Until next time, bye for now.